The Year 10 Season 2 Battle Pass lore is here, with some major things such as Calypso Casino from Vegas being mentioned, as well as new characters being introduced such as Auspice and Epsilon. Operation Daybreak's Battle Pass may be the best Battle Pass so far when it comes to world building and expanding the lore as much as it possibly can. And in this video, we're going to have a look at all the lore which is in this Battle Pass. You don't want to miss this. Now let's do a quick little recap so we all know where we are at the lore. After the destruction of Hereford base by the Keres Legion, Rainbow and Nighthaven are working in unison once again. This attack left many of Rainbow's staff dead, as well as one of their operatives, Dokkaebi, being captured. Following some intel which was discovered about the Keres Legion, Rainbow and Nighthaven follow a company by the name of Polaris, who are headquartered in Detroit. It is here where Rainbow operatives Raura and Solace discover Keres soldiers who are inside of this company's HQ. Attempting to keep one of them alive to gather more information, this Keres member is taken out by Phobos, who seems to be the current in command at the Keres Legion ever since Deimos was captured by Rainbow, and he goes on to blow up the building as well. Our operators escape with some of the intel in which these Keres soldiers were gathering, and it points to an abandoned district just outside the city itself. It is here where the Zeta team, consisting of Raura once again, alongside their captain Valkyrie, as well as Nighthaven's Grim, investigate this lead to see if the Keres Legion are here, and potentially even Dokkaebi. The intel is confirmed and the Keres Legion truly are staked out here, and this is presumably where many of them fled to after their base in Portugal, which we know as Lair, was infiltrated by Rainbow. Now Phobos was able to evade Rainbow here, however one thing was confirmed, and that is that Dokkaebi is somewhere in this location. This info gets relayed to the rest of the team and more operators are deployed in Detroit. We see Rainbow's clash in Nighthaven's IQ, facing off against Keres soldiers, where we see a beaten up Dokkaebi giving her last stand. IQ and Clash secure Dokkaebi, as the helicopter, which we learned in this battle pass, was piloted by Thunderbird, and the gunner, who seemed to be Jager, pick up our operators alongside Dokkaebi and evacuate them from the area. And in this battle pass, we learn more about what happened during this rescue of Dokkaebi and this infiltration of this district in Detroit. Like I said at the start, implications of us going back to Vegas, and more of what has happened after this as well. So this story tab is titled Onboarding, and this is coming from the perspective of Kure Galanos, known as Scopos. And it's here where we get some new characters introduced. Olivia Anderson, you don't have an easy job ahead. We lost 3 signal officers in the attack, including Matthews, your trainer. You'll be replacing all of them. West Point, Jager, even spent some time at Harvard, I see. Certainly impressive on paper. You should also thank Kaid. His endorsement is what got you to this point, but your performance here is what matters if you want to stay. This campaign is the largest coordinated assault Rainbow has ever undertaken. Nighthaven is back on the board, and its agents are to be considered friendly. That bridge was hard to unburn, but we can't do this alone. You'll be relaying intelligence to our operators in the field. Remember, your words are the difference between life and death for them. There's your console, next to Auspice. From here on out, your designated call sign is Epsilon. Good luck, don't get my people killed. So that was the introduction of a brand new character in Rainbow known as Epsilon. And she is actually in the game right now as your announcer in your ear when you play Duelfront. I absolutely love that they're expanding Rainbow and characters here outside of just the operators themselves. This really does a lot for world building in my opinion, and it's nice to see more of the establishment's workings rather than just its soldiers initially. It would also be quite nice as well for her to become the announcer when you play Core Siege as well. I think that'd just be really good to tie it all together. And for all we know, the voice which we've heard as the announcer for Siege all this time may have been Matthews, who would have been killed in this Hereford assault. I may just be looking too far into it there, but that would be really interesting if the R6 announcer was actually dead now, and that Epsilon is going to be the new one going forward. Now, we're going to break this battle pass into segments where it focuses on different bits. The first one, we're going to be looking at the Kappa team who was deployed in this operation as well, which, based on this battle pass, seems to consist of Twitch, Jackal, and Solace, if I'm not wrong. And they are searching the train yard at this district in Detroit, and this could presumably be after Dokkaebi has escaped, because remember, they're still looking for Phobos. But we have this one by Jackal saying, do you know how many trains are here? And they want us to search all of them? I'll do it, but it'll take days. And this is followed by one by Twitch saying, reporting in, Kappa team has gained control of the railway. We also have this one by Solace, and that's why I think that maybe she was potentially a part of Kappa team as well, where she says, I'm going through the rest of Dokkaebi's list, Twitch. I don't recognize half of this. What is LVCC? And at first glance, LVCC could mean anything. But remember, this is the Keres Legion's list in which Dokkaebi managed to steal from them. And of course, it's taken a while for them to decrypt this stuff, find stuff on it. A lot of this ended up being false leads, but this one is titled LVCC, which to many of us believe this stands for Las Vegas Calypso Casino, which did appear in Rainbow Six Vegas. Now, why are the Keres Legion listing Calypso Casino on their list? What has this got to do with anything they are doing? We're not sure yet. The attacks in Vegas are a massive thing in Rainbow Six lore, and there is potentially more to this story and maybe even some links here, which are going to become unraveled, especially more of the Keres Legion. This could simply be an Easter egg, but they always love to give us crucial information. They don't like to waste time in these battle passes. I have a strong feeling that we're going to be heading to Vegas at some point in the next year. And remember, we are currently in Detroit right now. If there is a potential lead happening for Vegas, it wouldn't be too far-fetched for them to take this opportunity whilst a lot of their operators are currently deployed in Detroit to jump along to Nevada and to potentially investigate what is happening. Or this could even be a new Rainbow Dark site as we move over to this next stage of the Battle Pass, which is talking about Deimos. This is the first time we've actually heard about him since the assault on Hereford base itself, where we have one from Ash saying, "Just heard back from the black site, Deimos is secure." We even hear from a little bit from Deimos himself talking to Sense, saying, "I appreciate the new cell in Goma, the old one had a draft." So whatever this dark site is, or whatever it is, this is where Deimos is now currently being held by Rainbow. Now, we have a little one from Iana here. I feel like this may be relevant to the fact that there is a map in Dealfront now, so Rainbow does have this surveillance over the map itself and this district. As we have Iana talking to Jager saying, "I am calling in favors for intel today. Hopefully I'll be done in time to make it to the front line. Please come back safe, Marius." And of course, we knew Jager was the gunner on that helicopter. And we have a response from whoever Iana was talking to. We don't know because this is redacted, but it says, "It's good to hear from you, Ninka, but we can't just reorient a satellite for an organization you won't tell me anything about." So if you don't know, Iana is a decorated astronaut in her story, collaborating with NASA, the European Astronaut Corps. She even went to the International Space Station. So she knows a lot of people in this sector. It seems like she was maybe trying to pull some strings to use some established satellites for Rainbow's advantage. And someone she knows who is capable of doing that is who she reached out to. However, she of course can't really tell them that it's for Rainbow or that she's even a part of Rainbow or what Rainbow even is. But it was really nice to see that little exchange there and sort of see Iana using her skills in a way to contribute that we never really thought of. But let's look at that sort of Jager and Thunderbird dynamic, which we did see in that cinematic, but we're learning a little bit more of here. We have Jager talking to Thunderbird saying, "You kept that helicopter so steady, Thunderbird, and whoever calibrated that M60, I must kiss them." So to actually get confirmation that it was Jager gunning down Keres soldiers with an M60 LMG in that cinematic, that was really cool. I'm glad we got to see Jager in that scenario. Now we have one from Epsilon as well saying, "Nice shooting, Jager. Refuel and restock quickly. I'm sending you and Sky back out to cover beta team." Sky being Thunderbird. So it's nice to see the two pilots in Rainbow being the two manning the helicopter on this mission. And there's a funny one by Jager as well saying, "There's a nice new woman in my ear. Welcome, friendly woman." But just imagine that in Jager's fun little German accent. Now let's take a look at some of the surrounding chaos which was happening in Detroit during these events, and of course what is currently happening in Hereford as well. We have this one by Ash saying, "Call wolfguard for EMS coordination. There are wounded civilians on the street." And this would of course been because of the fallout which was happening in the district, as well as the explosion which happened in the central of Detroit itself. Monty follows up on this saying, "The civilians in Detroit are terrified. They're going to want answers. What are they going to be told?" So yeah, rather than this just sort of being like secret Rainbow and Keres conflict, this is a very public display of terror. We even have some operators coming from Hereford itself doing the cleanup crew to assist in Detroit. We have this one from Captain Hibana talking to her operator Rook saying, "You'll do more good as an operator than a first responder. I'm calling you to Detroit." But we get some perspective of Rook, who is currently at Hereford, saying, "Skeleton crew here at Hereford still picking up the pieces." Because of course this is going to be a massive cleanup operation as well as a rescue operation. We have Capcan, who is also there alongside Rook, saying, "I've seen this all before, Rook. let us get to work. And this could be referring to a lot of stuff in Kapkan's past. He has done a lot in his time. But we have more conversation between them as well, with Kapkan saying, "We have protocols to detect unauthorized explosives, Rook. How did this happen?" Referring to the many explosives which were planted around Hereford, which are actually being developed in Detroit. We can see that when we're playing Dual Front, that they're sort of 3D printing these explosives. Rook simply says, "Deimos was right. We should have killed him." Now we also have a bit from Kaid, who is seemingly also still in Hereford doing this cleanup operation. And he says, "We have not been able to identify the dead Keres infiltrators yet. Still don't know if the recruits were who we thought they were." Butte also chimes in and says, "It hasn't been this bad since Bartlett. I always hoped we'd be ahead of the next catastrophe." Of course, really interesting to see Bartlett appearing in the lore again, with it being the pretty much initial thing to kickstart this current Rainbow roster back in 2015. Bandit also says, "To infiltrate our ranks, the lengths they had to go to, why didn't I see the signs? Can we even trust the remaining recruits?" Bandit himself went undercover in the Hells Angels. That's what the map Clubhouse is about. So for him to be able to infiltrate ranks and go undercover for as long as he did, he's sort of beating himself up that he didn't even realize that then he was on the opposite side of this and it was happening to them. So clearly a lot of confusion, mismanagement. How are their explosives going unrecognized? How did the recruits even infiltrate this? It definitely does bring into question the integrity of Rainbow's ranks. We have a little conversation between Callie and Ash, and we're going to get into a lot more Nighthaven stuff in a second. But Callie says to Ash, "I heard you were finally up, Princess. Do try and stay out of my way. We wouldn't want you getting hurt again." And Ash responds saying, "As long as your agents stay on task, we're not going to have a problem, Callie." Which could also have some implication that Ash doesn't really care about the whole playbook anymore either. She's not saying, "Oh, follow the playbook or do X, Y, and Z." She's just saying, "Stay on task and we're not going to have a problem." This could potentially imply that Ash's, not necessarily her morals have been shaken, but after what she has been through, being put in a coma, etc. by Deimos, but she isn't really someone to throw the book at someone as much as she used to be. Right, let's look more at Nighthaven, and especially Pulse as well. He has a lot of dialogue in this battle pass. The first one, he says, "Osa just arrived. She was working on that shield the whole flight over. Now she says she needs to finish something else." So the shield he is talking about is Clash's new Mark II shield. Osa was responsible for upgrading it, so that was the shield she was working on. Now, finishing something else, we're yet to see what this may be. This is clearly going to be in unison with the Season 4 remaster we know we're getting, and we know that's going to be a pathfinding operator. But it may potentially be hinting at Thatcher here, because we have one by Scopos talking to Thatcher saying, "Get over it, Thatcher. If Osa says she needs extra materials, you give them to her." Now, whether that's referring to his gadget or Osa trying to maybe do something else, because we also have another one by Sledge where he says, "Osa, the FOB is not for tinkering. We neither have the time nor the bloody space." So here, FOB or FOB most likely stands for Forward Operating Base, which I imagine in this case is probably a base of operations they have set up in Detroit for this operation itself. And Sledge is basically saying to Osa that, like, they've not got enough space for her to start tinkering with gadgets there, nor the time, since they are in this active operation. So whether it's Thatcher just being involved in this drama, or the materials he is giving over to Osa involves part of his EMPs, we don't know. All we know is that Osa is actively working on tinkering a gadget, which is very interesting, and we'll definitely be learning about more of this soon. I also want to make note that Scopos does put a lot of trust in Osa, since they did collaborate on making the shells which Scopos uses, and her and Osa do have quite a good bond, it seems. We have an insight from Doc saying, "Hereford cost us deeply. Without Nighthaven, we don't have the numbers for this operation," which helps give us more of an understanding as to why Nighthaven are now back working with Rainbow. Although they were rebuilding the bridge, it did seem like the assault of Hereford was the tipping point to when they needed them back. We have Pulse sort of arguing with Callie a little bit, saying, "We just barely got out, and now we're going back in? What did they promise you, Callie? What does playing second fiddle get us this time?" And this is, of course, Pulse referring to Rainbow and Nighthaven working together once again, with him being an ex-Rainbow operative. But Callie seemingly doesn't appreciate this stance which Pulse is taking, as she says, I decide where and when Nighthaven goes, Pulse. You can work with Rainbow, or we can reconsider your contract. So Callie reasserting her dominance there as the leader of Nighthaven and sort of putting Pulse in his place, basically saying she doesn't care how he feels. This is her operation, and if she wants to work with Rainbow, she's working with Rainbow. Callie also says to Pulse, I don't care if you two have grievances, Pulse. I'm calling him in now. We're not taking chances with this operation. Now, I'm not really sure who Callie is talking about here. I thought maybe initially she could be referring to Ace. We do know that Pulse and Ace get along very well, but maybe things got a bit sour between them. Or, if there's no one else I am missing, could she be referring to the new Swiss operator we are getting in Year 10 Season 3? And maybe Pulse has a history with him, or maybe he's been in Nighthaven for a while now and we've just not seen it yet because we've not really been focusing on Nighthaven and him and Pulse don't get along. I mean, it would make sense to start teasing the next operator because that is only one season away till we see him. Or this could simply be talking about someone else and I'm just completely missing who it is. But speaking of Ace, we have one by him saying, you can talk to your ex after this is over, my dude. This is shooting time. If you don't know, Pulse's ex is Hibana. They used to date before he left to join Nighthaven. So now that they are working on the same side again, it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say. We have one from Pulse talking to Finka saying, Finka, make sure your nanobots are synced to recognize Rainbow as friendlies. Hey, you feeling alright? So a little open-ended one there, and maybe what's wrong with Finka? Is she just physically not feeling well, or is this more of an emotional thing, especially with what is going on? And I think this may be linked to another one here, where we hear about Lion. Now, if you remember in the Year 10 cinematic, Lion almost died at Hereford. We see Doc finding and stabilizing him during this cinematic, but we actually hear Twitch talking a little bit more about this, saying, Lion's condition crashed after evac. Without Doc, he wouldn't have made it. How do I focus when I'm this worried about a friend? So although Doc's stim gave him that little bit of adrenaline, that little bit of a boost he needed to get up, after that it seemed like he started to get worse once again, and he's probably in pretty bad condition right now. So I imagine Finka, who, remember, was the person that recommended Lion to join her unit, and they both entered Rainbow together. I imagine that this is an emotional response to hearing what condition Lion is in, which very realistically would have an effect on her. Yet again, we have another one from Pulse saying, someone tell Ace and Osa that Ella's safe. Zofia made it to her in time. So this is also referring to the scene we see in the Year 10 cinematic, where Ella is protecting someone who we're still not sure who it is from the Keres Legion, and Zofia aids her in this mission. We're now going to look at some other quotes which are a bit standalone, but as impactful as the other ones, don't get me wrong, not to downplay them. But we have this first one by Scopo saying, they targeted Rainbow for a reason. They know we're the only ones who can stop them. Next up, we have one by Raura saying, the sun is rising. Let's give them hell. We have one from Doc, who has Dokkaebi in his care now, saying, stop trying to stand up, Dokkaebi. I'll sedate you if I must. Showing how keen she is to get back in the action, just like how every other operator has been the moment they've been injured in combat. So Doc probably does have a big responsibility here as well to try and keep these ops down for their own sake. We have one by Ash here saying, maintain channel protocols, everybody. Let's not give Epsilon a headache. So by that she means, you know, keep the comms clear, keep them relevant, don't all talk over each other. Epsilon is now who they are talking to in these missions. It's best to keep it as clear and easy for both sides. We have one by Blitz saying, Ram is breaching, we need suppressive fire, Ash. Which, based on some of the other stuff we've seen with like the Zeta team, the Kappa team, which do seem to be teams of 3, I wonder if this is letting us know that Ram, Ash, and Blitz are their own team, which is a really cool trio if I don't say so myself. We have one by Jager saying, it's a good thing they found Dokkaebi. Thatcher was on a warpath looking for her, and he was starting to get reckless. Now this is playing into the overarching little story of the relationship between Thatcher and Dokkaebi. This was actually one of the first major stories that was told when Siege started to ramp up its lore efforts with the hammer and scalpel. Dokkaebi representing this new generation of soldiers, of technology, where Thatcher is the more traditional, hands-on anti-tech. I mean, just look at their gadgets. He has a gadget which disables technology, where she has a gadget which takes advantage of it. This story would continue to develop over time, with Thatcher and Dokkaebi having a lot of respect for each other now. and clearly to a point where they truly do care for each other. And this can even be seen as sort of like a father and daughter dynamic, as we have one from Sledge here saying, Thatcher didn't leave Dokkaebi's side for 18 hours after she made it back. Never seen him like this before. Which is a big thing for Sledge to say because he is one of Thatcher's best friends. So I love the fact that it's been years since we got this sort of dynamic introduced, that we're still seeing it develop over time, they're not forgetting about it, and it really does add to this overall world building and depth to these characters. We have this one by Castle saying, the Keres Legion's presence in Detroit is overwhelming. How long have they been planning this? Which brings into question, like I was saying, the overall scope of Keres Legion's plans, what they're doing, what's on the list. Did they come here after Lair was infiltrated? If you've not played Dual Front, there's a bunch of different stations around this map where the Keres Legion are basically printing, 3D printing bombs. So this may have even predated the Lair itself. And how many more stations and places around the world do they have just like this? We have one by Sledge saying, move your arse, we'll take the entire city room by room if we have to. Now, depending on when this was said, this is either referring to when they're looking for Dokkaebi, or now potentially looking for Phobos. We have one by Brava, which is reminding us the pressure which Rainbow currently has from GSAC, the Global Security Alliance Council, which overlooks Rainbow and are currently investigating of whether they should shut Rainbow down or not. And she says, I don't like our odds. Rainbow in action is one thing, but nobody stands against bureaucracy for long. So this is a reminder that Rainbow do have the GSAC still breathing down their neck, and they're probably being scrutinized for everything they do. And Brava, who actually has a degree in law, knows what it's like to deal with bureaucrats all too well. We have one by Thermite, and not really sure who he's talking to here, but he says, you've been on patrol for over a day. Rest, now, before you get yourself killed. That's an order. And if I've correctly found every piece of information, the last one here is by Rook saying, they destroyed the Hereford pub, but at least the Legionnaire shield survived. Which I imagine was placed inside this pub, and I like to think if we ever get a new version of Hereford base as a map, or, you know, a new rework or something like that, I'd love to see a modern day Hereford base built from the ground up. Maybe the shield can be placed on the map or on the wall or something like that as a memory of what once stood before it. And so everybody, that is the Battle Pass lore for Year 10 Season 2. I truly do think they have stepped up their game with this Battle Pass lore. And, you know, name dropping potentially Calypso Casino and Vegas and everything. You can't do that to me and not give me more information. So sadly, we are just gonna have to wait and see what happens next, but there was so much information provided in this Battle Pass, so much world building. I absolutely love the introduction of Epsilon and hearing more of these background working staff, such as Auspice as well. Is the original announcer dead? Who knows? But I kind of like the idea of that theory. I think that's quite interesting. But yeah, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have watched this far, I just will remind you, in Siege, we now have creator codes. If you would be so kind to use code Kudos when you make your purchases, I would appreciate that. You're obviously not obliged to. You just watching this video and liking it and subbing, it is more than enough for me. But if you want to, the option is there. So I love you all. I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one. Stay safe.